Happy Monday, guys. Wishing you an amazing Monday, an amazing week, lots of focus and productivity. And also, I want to talk to you about overwhelm. Overwhelm is something that I have really battled with for a very long time, for the large part of my adult life. And I know that when one is overwhelmed, it's actually very difficult to know what to do, how to focus. So, over the next couple of stories, I am going to share with you some ways that I use to overcome overwhelm and what you can do as well if you feel overwhelmed. So, stay plugged if this is relevant for you. So, number one, overwhelm is a state of mind. It's actually not to do with everything going on around you. It's more to do with everything going on inside of you. When we tend to feel overwhelmed, what we are really doing is projecting certain things in our minds and projecting certain expectations in our minds that make it difficult for us to deal with our external environment or our external situations, because we have a particular way in which we think these things need to be done. So to overcome that, the first thing to do is to literally gather your thoughts, to get your thoughts back into a place of calmness, back into a place of reason. Okay? Overwhelm really stems from a place of unreasonably thinking you are against the clock, or you are against time or pressure. Okay, so get your thoughts back. And how do you do that? Literally just stop, take a breath, and list out, either in your mind or write it out or speak it out, what your thoughts are concerning that matter. Identify those thoughts and then reframe those thoughts. And I'll give you an example of how to do that. So if, for example, you are feeling overwhelmed, I don't know, because you have a deadline and you are rushing towards that deadline, and you're thinking, oh my God, I don't have enough time. Oh my God, I don't have enough time. I can't get this done. One way to reframe that particular thought is to say to yourself, okay, I do have a lot on my plate. I'm going to think about the best way to find time to get this done, and to reframe it by saying, I have exactly the amount of time I need to complete this project. And when you are able to reframe your thoughts, the mind begins to work in your favor in relation to the thoughts that you have. Because remember, your thoughts ultimately result in your actions. So if you change the quality of your thinking, it will ultimately change the quality of your behavior as well. So the second thing to do when trying to deal with overwhelm is to look at what is in your environment that is projecting feelings of overwhelm. I know I said overwhelm is an internal matter, and I've dealt with how to deal with the internal matter in the last post. But when you're looking at your external environment, are you in an environment that constantly reminds you of that feeling of overwhelmed? And I'll give you an example. Me personally, my phone is my working tool. And I realize that part of my overwhelm comes from so much information coming at me, whether it's my notifications, whether it's my WhatsApp, whether it's my emails, whether it's, what's happening on Instagram. It gets me overwhelmed because I'm constantly absorbing information. So for me, I modify that environment. By removing things that are anxiety and overwhelm inducing. So I have now removed my emails from my phone. So if I need to access my email, I have to go onto my laptop in order for me to do that. I've turned off notifications from things that are not relevant to me. So I don't get to see every single post that someone has liked on my Instagram. I don't get the chime in sound every time I get a WhatsApp. I've muted all my WhatsApp groups. I've come out of so many WhatsApp groups. So you have got to do things that allow your mind to have a sense of calmness and peace. And so you will do an audit of what is in your environment and what can you take out. And the final step is to overcome overwhelm is to plan. And planning means, especially in relation to when you have things to do, get clear on every single step that is involved in that thing to do. Overwhelm comes when we are unsure of what we need to do. So if you have a task or a deadline, what you want to do is break that task or deadline into its every single step, and then systematically follow that step by step. That is one of the ways to overcome overwhelm. Now, you may say to me, well, Banke, my overwhelm is not from what I need to do. My overwhelm is just be feeling, a sense of emotional drama going on in my life. I will deal with that in the final post. So dealing with emotional overwhelm, first of all, I want you to understand that emotions are an experience. They don't define who you are, and they are not you. They are an experience that you are going through, and that means it is temporary. It means that it will be here in one moment, and in another moment it won't be there. And so that's the first thing you need to really understand when it comes to dealing with emotional overwhelm. The second thing is that you need to allow yourself to do three things. The first, feel the emotion, right? And I'll elaborate on that in a minute. The second, process the emotion. And the third is to move on from the emotion. Now, this is where the overwhelm comes in, where these three things that I've mentioned is missing, or at least one of those three things that I've mentioned are missing. So what does it mean to feel the emotion? It actually means, feel the emotion. Whatever it is you feel in that moment, allow it to fully come through in you. Second thing, to process information, the emotion means to now begin to introspect and ask, what is behind this emotion? Why do I feel this way? What does this emotion mean for me right now? What can I do about the emotion? This is what you call the processing. And then the final part is to move on from the emotion, which is a case of making a decision that this emotion has had its time and I'm now going to move through it by doing the following things, whatever those things may be in relation to that particular emotion.